everybody, welcome back to another video, and today I'm answering all of your questions from the Q&A we've set up both on the YouTube community page as well as my Instagram page. We're going to jump straight into it, and the first question is from Sebastian, and it says, how long did it take you to get used to surfing with a camera in your mouth? What was your starting point and process to becoming such a sick POV filmer? Well, first off, thanks very much, I appreciate that. It's taken me a long time. I've been surfing with a GoPro not only in the mouth mount form but also on the board for quite a while. It's been about 10 or 12 years now, so probably since the beginning of the GoPros, which I think is about 10 years. And I've been trying to kind of get used to that surfing. It does take a lot out of you because you're constantly trying to breathe with the mouth mount in your mouth, and trying to figure that all out is pretty difficult. But the thing that I found is putting a tether to your wetsuit and then onto the GoPro really helps, because you can just spit it out at any time and you know it's going to be attached. So if I was to give you any advice, try and figure out how to attach it somewhere to your wetsuit or to your board or to a leash. Other than that, I think just consistently doing it over and over really helps to kind of get the feeling for it and get better at using it. Next question is, what specs do you prefer to use for your go-to board, and how big of a difference is it in cold to warm waters? So I've spoken about this before on the channel, but I tend to stick with the same shape and the same materials throughout the year, no matter what conditions and temperatures I'm riding in. I am wanting to try NRG here in the UK because the temperature of the water is a lot colder, but not only the water, the outside temperature is also a lot colder. Where in South Africa, our summer months are generally when the water was coldest, so I was always riding usually when it was really hot outside but cold in the water. Here it's cold outside and cold in the water. So I'm going to be changing up and trying NRG a little bit more here, but for the most part I'm riding a PP core and a 42-inch board. It's the same shape and specs that you guys would get in any of the boards from Sniper, any of my design. So pretty much the same all year round, no matter what at the moment. The next question is the stiffness of PP presenting any challenges in the cold UK waters? So at the moment I'm riding a really old board. That board is already pretty flexy, so it's not really changing much, but it will change, I'm sure, in the winter time when I try and ride newer boards. So my plan is for in summer to ride as many different boards as possible and try to break a bunch of boards in and get them feeling a little bit softer. When you go to places like Brazil and the Maldives and Bali and places like that, it's a lot easier to take boards there, break them in, because it'll take like 1 or 2 surfs. Here in the colder water it's going to take a lot longer to break those boards in, but it is what it is. That's probably the biggest challenge right now with the PP cores, is trying to get them soft enough to ride more consistently. The next question is GoPro settings for the mouth mount view. It's pretty easy from my side. I usually surf on 1080p at 120 frames a second with the super wide view, and then I usually just leave everything else the same because of how much the conditions change in the ocean. Might go cloudy, it might go sunny. I don't really change the Pro Tunes that much. But that's kind of the settings that I use. The super view is the easiest one because, you know, you're opening up a bigger view of the things that you can see around you. It allows you to see the top of the barrel and as wide as it's going to be. So that's basically the settings. Do you need fins to steer the board? No, you don't. But it does help. It helps you to get onto the waves. It helps you to steer when you're on the waves. And basically having extra weight on your feet will allow you to transfer your weight a lot easier. If you're wanting to slow down, it puts more weight on your feet, dragging your legs into the water, allowing you to slow down easier. And the same, it allows you to pick up speed and get the board kind of weighted pretty center. I would say always go with fins, but if you don't have fins, you can still go ride your bodyboard. Rob asks, how's the transition to the UK? It's pretty central for Europe, Canaries, and even the US. That is one of the benefits about living here. It definitely means that it's going to be easier for me to travel, easier for me to get around and to see Europe as well as the Canaries and even the US. That's one of the factors that kind of made us come here, apart from a whole bunch of others. But for me, the transition has been pretty difficult. We're 2.5 months in now, and it's been a very difficult ride, a difficult one to adjust to. Took us 2 months to get into this place that you see here, and the transition has not been easy, but I guess it's not easy for anyone that's changing countries and traveling to a new place. So we will get there, and yeah, been a bit of a challenge, but we are enjoying ourselves here. Today's video is sponsored by Boogie Everyday. Head on over to Boogie Everyday to get onto the membership platform, as well as to check out all the clothing that we have on there. There are a bunch of new designs coming up in the next few weeks, so I hope you guys enjoy them, and thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate it. Now we're going to head on to the questions from you guys on Instagram, and the best advice for somebody who is injured but still wants to keep the strength for bodyboarding. I'm no trained professional. I don't know enough about the injury that you're facing and what you're currently doing. But I would say if you can get into some sort of recovery, find someone that specializes in recovery, or buy a kinetist. If you're in Cape Town, check out 괱ᴜᴘᴘᴏʀᴛ. They're the people I used to work with, Philip Nell. That's always a good place to start, someone that can help you to kind of bridge that gap from the injury to your recovery. Otherwise, start slow, get back into the water if you can. Swimming is always good. But again, depending on what the injury is, it's hard to say just off the information. Jaden has asked how to ride wedges. Wedges are difficult because there's multiple peaks coming across the whole time, so you've got to kind of figure out the flow that you can make on those peaks. The other day I was surfing a wedge here in Cornwall, and you can really feel the wave kind of pick you up. The benefit about riding the wedge is how much speed it actually gives you. So I would say if you can figure out exactly where to be to get the most speed out of these waves, that's always the best thing about the wedge, is it gives you so much speed, so it allows you to hit those sections. That's probably the best tip that I can give you. Otherwise, just figure out what wedge you're riding, how it wedges up, and where the power is in the wave. And also know that try to avoid the lip landing on you. And I know I say that, but I mean it's a lot more water because you've got two waves coming together. The next question is, I feel very weird on riding right waves. Meanwhile, I'm doing good on lefts. Any tips to improve this lack? Ride more right waves. That's the most simple thing that I can give you. The reason why you probably feel a lot better on your left is it might feel a little bit more natural, but at the same time you might have just ridden more left waves. By riding more rights, you'll be able to feel that same feeling. For me personally, I started off riding a lot more lefts when I was living up on the east coast in South Africa, and as soon as I moved down south, it all became rights. And although it was really tough at the start, it really benefited me down the line because I ended up just riding rights, and you get a lot better on the rights. So figure out other waves that you can ride where they're mostly rights and ride more of those. The next question is from a member, Glenn, and he asks, breath training for hold downs in big surf, what do you do? Basically, I would say try and train your breath to last on those big hold downs, and I know that seems like something pretty simple to say, but any training where you're kind of like swimming, holding your breath, make sure you're being watched when you do that, because shallow water blackout is a pretty common thing. But just try and get your cardiovascular up there. If you're doing interval training like sprinting or HIIT exercises, that helps with your breath training, helps you to breathe, helps you to understand the breath a lot more, and yeah, it'll definitely help you in the surf, especially on the bigger days. Duck diving big waves, what is your process? So I have made a video on this. I know Glenn did message me on Instagram and say that Nathan Florence says that you should kind of duck dive parallel to the wave. And the reason why he says that is when the waves land, they form like an impact, so you get like a high pressure situation and then you get a low pressure directly after that. And where that low pressure is a great place for you to duck dive, because you get into the low pressure and there's not as much turbulence in that section. So when he says, you know, duck dive kind of parallel to the wave, It just means that you're going to be in that low point. I have made a video about this. I'll link it up here for you just to kind of see exactly what I mean. The other option is to open your eyes. By opening your eyes, you'll see the pockets and be able to kind of navigate yourself through there and up to the surface. The next question is from Sean, and Sean says, somewhere you would like to surf in the future. This is a pretty common question that I get, and probably one that I really like to answer because it's all these places that I haven't been to. I've never had the chance to go to Bali or Indonesia. I've never really had the chance to go to Mexico, and also places like Chopu and Tahiti and places like that. Those are all the places that I would love to go, but there's also places around here in the UK, and now that I'm living here, places like Ireland, Scotland and Wales are really high up on my list, and that's kind of what I'm going to focus on later on this year when it gets to winter time, is focusing on surfing within the UK and getting a lot more waves here. So in the future, that's where I want to be. Ben asks, are you able to financially sustain a full-time surf-based career in the UK, or are you having to substitute it? So this is a little bit of a tough one because I'm actually not too sure. I'm going to still try and bodyboard as much as I can here, but I also want to set up some coaching stuff and a few other things along the way. This is going to allow me to kind of make money outside of solely bodyboarding, but when it comes to the winter time, I would like to focus a lot more on the YouTube and traveling and adventuring, and then obviously in the summertime focus more on the coaching and other things. I also want to work with a lot more brands. That's something I've said before on this channel, but it's something that I'm really passionate about. I love to create content for people, and that's where I want my brand to go because I think it'll sustain me for a longer period of time. Ben also asks if I'm keeping track of the UK surfing events, the Grom Search, England and Wales National, or am I too busy? So I am going to be involved there, whether it be riding at the events or helping other people at the events. I'm already going to be helping someone at these events, which is pretty exciting. But I also want to be a part of it. I want to be a part of the scene here, and I want to help out as much as I can. So for sure, I'm going to be involved, I'll be there, and I'm really excited to be a part of that year. Are you going to do the full tour this year? Basically, no, I'm not. This move across the UK has been really challenging, and it's been very expensive, and at the moment I just don't really have the budget to do the full tour, which is hard to say, but that's just me being honest and open with you guys. It's a very expensive tour, it's a lot of time away, and with things going on as they are at the moment, I just don't know if I can invest that much time into the world tour again this year. I will be doing some of the events. I'm hopefully going to be in Brazil, the Maldives, Sintra, South Africa, and then I've got some other stuff at the end of the year that I'm going to be doing. So I will be doing some of the tour, but definitely not the full tour. Which training or exercises would you recommend to landlocked bodyboarders? If you are landlocked and you're looking to do exercises and training, I would suggest either going onto our membership platform. We have quite a lot of training and bodyboarding stuff up there already, but there's a lot more stuff that's going to be coming in the coming weeks. We want to really focus on helping you guys to kind of train and exercise in the way that's going to benefit your riding in the long term, and that's something that I really want to kind of push in that sense. But if you're just looking for basic things, swimming trainings, and Mike should put out a really cool post the other day about kettlebells and Swiss ball training, so go check that out if you haven't already. I think those are really cool things to kind of get involved with. George asks, what shocked you about England compared to South Africa when you first came? The quality of waves here actually shocked me quite a lot. I wasn't expecting to get waves. Everyone keeps saying, oh, why would you go to England? There's no waves in England, rather go to Australia. The reason why we came here has got nothing to do with waves, and it's got a lot more to do with personal growth. And for that, I think the biggest thing that shocked me was the wave quality. There's a lot of good waves, and I've surfed a lot of good waves already. Some of them I can't really be super open about. Others, like Cornwall's littered with waves. I got a really good session yesterday. I've had a few good sessions so far. So that's probably the biggest thing that's really blown my mind is how good the waves are and also how many bodyboarders there are here. It's wild. The next question is, what's the next step for you in your career? So as I've just said, I want to focus a lot more on working with brands, a little bit less on events, just because of how expensive it has become to travel. And I also want to do a little bit more coaching and kind of do things within my business. As you guys know, we run Boogie every day, and we've seen quite a lot of growth since we got to the UK, and we really want to kind of push that. So I want to get more involved in the business side of things. I want to do more YouTube. I want to do a lot more working with brands and that kind of stuff. And then of course the coaching. I think there's a way to be giving back here in the UK and a way to be giving back online. So opening up both the coaching locally as well as online is probably the next step in my career. Carl asks, Shockiest place you've surfed and have you seen any whites? So I've been really lucky to not see any whites in the water, but the sharkiest place I surfed was Caves. Caves is notoriously sharky. There was a couple of years ago where there was like 11 or 12 sharks in the water for like over a month. And there's been attacks there and multiple sightings. There's a shark spotter who sits on the rocks for 365 days of the year. So sharkiest place I've ever surfed is definitely there. And Cape Town's also known for its great whites, so that's probably answers that question. How does one get over the fear of riding bigger waves? I have put this out before on a video, but I think just pushing yourself to your limit and knowing your limits in paddling out on bigger waves is probably the easiest way to get over that fear. It can be a daunting task and it can be really challenging, but I think putting yourself in the situation where you are comfortable is most important. As soon as you feel out of your comfort zone, you're going to start to panic, and that's when this fear will set in. But I think overcoming that means that you have to kind of be out of your comfort zone ever so slightly a lot more often, and that will help you to get over your fear of riding bigger waves. Simon has asked, how is life in the UK compared to South Africa? It's very different. It's a different lifestyle here. It's a lot colder. It's a lot wetter, and you end up traveling a fair amount to get to places. You know, you see England and you think it's a really small place, and then you get here and you realize how big it is. But it's cool. It's super rad. It's been really fun traveling over here and kind of having the experience with Rose and learning new things, understanding new things. Things don't happen in a hurry here like everywhere else in the world. So most of the time you spend waiting and hoping that things will come through. But it's a different way of life, very different to South Africa, a lot more relaxed in some senses, as I know you guys can imagine. But in other senses, you know, it's a lot slower and a little bit less of the pace, especially down here in Cornwall. It's like living in the Strand. It's very, very slow for things to happen. So it's been rad though. Tyler asks, what's the best waves you scored so far in Cornwall? Again, I think the wedges have been the most fun that I've had so far. We surfed 2 wedges, and one was up a little bit, one was kind of central a little bit, if that helps. But there's sick waves around here. Every time I go surf, I'm like kind of amazed at how fun the waves can be. And so far I've just been getting super average waves, as everyone's been telling me. So when it gets good, I mean, I think you could probably surf weekly and score weekly. So I'm excited about that. I'm really excited for this next winter to come after this long summer that's about to start. This question is, how do you prepare lower back for heavy landings? Simply put, train your core. Again, I think movements like your Swiss ball exercises, core exercises, exercises with kettlebells, weights, those kind of things will really help. If you can get into yoga and Pilates, that's always a good way to help strengthen your core and your lower back. That'll prepare your body a lot more for the impacts, but just know that the impacts are coming. If you want to push the level of the sport, you're going to end up, you know, coming down hard on your stomach or coming down hard on the board itself. So preparing for that and understanding that that's going to happen is probably the best way of preparing for your heavy landings. And the last question is, what is the first board that I ever rode? I have told this story before, but I started out lifesaving when I was younger. I was doing like competitive lifesaving, where we kind of raced around buoys out in the ocean, and I started by racing bodyboards around buoys and back in. It was kind of like a race that they had set up. And so my first board was the one that we were racing on. It was called an aquafin. I'll try to find a photo of it. Basically, we used to race these little red boards and race them around some cans and come back in. I kind of picked up riding the waves on those boards, and that's, I started rolling and doing spins, and then got into the competitive side of bodyboarding at a really young age, and that's kind of how I progressed. But that was the first board I rode, and super rad to kind of think back on those moments and remember those things. So guys, that's the end of the Q&A. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. It's something a little bit different for this time, but hopefully looking to do a few more of these into the future. If you guys want to check out Boogie Every Day, please do so. We appreciate you guys' support. If you want to join onto the membership platform, we're posting up there weekly, and there is a lot of cool stuff on there and a whole bunch more to come. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.